into that, do me a favor. Let everyone know who you are, where they can find you, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. So my name is Kelly Carpenter. I am the founder of The Other Side of Average, which is my website is theothersideofaverage.com. That's where you can find me, or at The Other Side of Average on, any social media. You'll find me there. And really, I am someone that has spent my lifetime learning to listen to the deep, wise voices within and to redefine, constantly redefine and, inquire into those places that define us, that define all of us, different, traumas or circumstances that had a large impact that we seem to get lost in. So this idea of really evolving beyond the story. And not only has it just been a lived experience and, after and alongside the lived experiences, I'm also a Chopra certified transcendent meditation teacher, conscious connected breathwork practitioner and trainer. I train facilitators, and a conscious relationship, conscious uncoupling, and conscious parenting coach. And like I said, really all that means is I help people redefine the things that have defined them.
Perfect. I know for me, when I look at my past relationships, I always felt, and this is either romantic, professional, even interpersonal, right? I felt that it defined me in a way because it was a moment in time. This is terrain 2009. This is terrain 2011. This is terrain 1999. And he is so wet behind the ears, he has no idea what he's doing. But I have the confidence, I have to say that, yes, I'm the man. But even though inside I'm still a little tiny boy. So when you're helping people redefine this, what are some of the steps that you take them through to have a better understanding of maybe themselves and their role in the world?
Great. You know, I look at each individual as, really this whole individual, this mind, body, soul. And my approach really comes from that holistic approach of working with the mind, the meaning that we've attached to, you know, terrain 1999 or some of the circumstances around that. And how do we, unravel and redefine the thoughts, the beliefs, the meaning we gave to a certain situation. But, that's only part of it. How do we work with the body, the restrictions? They say that the issues are in our tissues. So somatically, that cellular memory, that shutdown, those places that are, actually restricted. So working with how do we, release that on a cellular level, working with the emotions. I actually feel that every one of us needs to learn how to feel again, because those things, those places in time, or those moments in time that have defined us, is usually has some locked in emotions and feelings that are attached to it cellularly. And then on that more soul level, or, is how do we, what practices, can we implement and engage in to bring a certain stillness and presence in order to connect to the part of us that's bigger than those moments in time or those circumstances that we feel defined by. So I kind of work with all three of those areas.
And when you position it to your clients that way, is there a commonality that sometimes prevent them from achieving the type of success that you may help them to outline?
I think it's a matter of choice. When we're really working with a holistic approach in that way, um, it's really the work works if we work it, right? So it's I often talk about choice is our greatest power. And it's this beautiful place between the person, client in this particular case that, has gained a certain awareness that they're suffering in some capacity, that they're stuck, that they're overwhelmed, that, more is possible. And they've made a really deep choice to, step into their healing because they know that, yeah, more is possible. Or enough is enough of living in this place of suffering, combined with that holistic approach and really working with the whole body. That's where the magic is. I can't work my magic without them. Right. So it's the partnership that we enter into. And so as long as that choice is made, um, I haven't had an experience of the work not working. I don't say that with, some sort of arrogance, because it's very, humbling. They're doing the work equally the same as myself. It's just this beautiful partnership between the two of us that, and a deep trust, you know, not only just my lived experience, but my work with clients or my work even with my children. I have 3 children. um it is, yeah, it's a very humbling, you know place to be in, to really trust the innateness in an individual, that wholeness that lives in all of us, and trust the pain. I always use the quote from Rumi is, the wound is where the light enters us. Because when we actually trust pain that deeply, it will always guide us to the light. And so it doesn't matter where someone's struggling, if they've made the choice to heal at that level, and, they're held in a place where they can really meet that pain or that place of suffering or that place of stuckness, with the right tools, it the wisdom within them and the wisdom in pain will guide us.
As I enter a reflective state of mind right now, as you're saying that, because your words were bringing me back to a time where I had no idea how to make any form of relationships work.
Mm.
Um, I struggled with my romantic relationships. I struggled with my friendships because I was putting expectations onto people that they didn't necessarily earn. For example, um, if I'm the type of friend that is always on time, and I'm very considerate of Kelly's feelings, I would want you to do the same to me. But even though your behavior showed that you're always late, you're a jerk. You're not really a jerk. I'm just, giving an
Yeah,
example.
of course.
And you're just like monster of a woman, then I should be judging you, or at least I should have expectations based on your behavior. So when you say some of these things, Kelly, I'm like, I wish I knew you in 2008
Mm.
because I was going through a time where I felt like I was lost. I would look at my friends, and the more success that I had, the more distance it created between myself and them. Do you find that to be happening in your experiences, maybe on a personal level, but also on a professional level with your clients?
Hmm. I Could you ask me that one more time? So I was like involved in your story, but I also want to hear it through the question one more time.
Absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll expand on my situation. So when I grew up without my mother or my father, I was trying to understand my place in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that if I can surround myself with people who I felt love me in the way that I could be loved, I would share my success with them. So as I
Mm-hmm.
grew up, especially in my 20s, I started to find the type of job that I want. I started to date the type of woman that I want to date. I found success in my career. But as I was trying to share that success with the people who I felt were there for me, they weren't there for me in the way that I thought they would be. also they weren't there for me in the way that they showed that they would be. So when
Mhm.
you're looking at your life now or the life of those who you help, have you seen situations where they were trying to share successes in their life, but the people around them weren't receptive to it?
Yeah, I think that that happens, on many different levels at many different times. Is that, as we evolve and change, sometimes our, you know, connection, our relatability, maybe our lifestyle choices, aren't in alignment with someone else. But there's also a different level of that, is that sometimes it's that we're stepping out of a story. And most of us, those, stories that we're trying to step out of have some sort of victim, stance to them, that victim mentality. And there's a lot of people that, you know, in the world on many different levels that would like us to buy into our victim story because it supports their own. I have a story that I tell a lot. I was a child of meditation. And it wasn't because my mom was some guru, but really because she was suffering. She was suffering mentally, emotionally. She was a young mom. She was reactive. Yeah, she was just struggling. And then she, on top of that, a few years in, she was going through a messy, manipulative divorce. And she went to learn TM, or transcendental meditation. So I meditated just because I was told to meditate. And it my mom didn't have the capacity to really show up and be the mom in the way a deep down she desired to be, but she had enough awareness to bring me something like meditation. And that really helped me see, stay in contact to some degree with the part of me that's bigger than the story. Right. So I could have this witnessing awareness, we call it in the meditation world, is that I could see that these events and circumstances had an impact, but my struggle or my suffering on the inside was my inability to integrate it. It was the reliving of it, the feeling defined by it. And so, I also didn't know that it wasn't normal to have that awareness. but I did. I knew I wasn't the story, and I went to a counselor when I was 19. So, what do we do if we want to seek some help or we want to let go of some of these places in our past? We find a professional who's going to help us with that. And so I went to see a counselor, and it just felt horrible because she wanted me to buy into the fact that I was a victim, that, that needed to define me. And I went back for a second appointment, and I was like, this is definitely not the avenue or the path for me, because we all need those wounded places, or those places that have been hurt or victimized in some way. That wound, those emotions need to be honored. But for any of us, if we buy into the story, we're going to stay stuck there. So we want to honor the wound, really give safe passage to the emotions that are there, but not justify the story if we want to evolve beyond it, if we want to set ourselves free from it. And so, yeah, sometimes, professionals or people in our life, have a hard time watching us evolve beyond our story because it highlights theirs, or maybe they're not ready to step beyond it.
How was how was it growing up with that situation as you look back on it because you're not in it anymore, but you're out of it and reflecting upon it? How was that
Mm-hmm.
for you?
Yeah. Um, you know, it's there's a lot of compassion. My mom, you know, didn't, sometimes I say, imagine a world where mothers are really held, to fully nourish and nurture their children. The boys and the girls, we would all grow up in a different capacity, you know, less defined, less, you know, less barriers to love and to being loved and loving. And so I look back on it with a lot of compassion for the pain that she was carrying and the struggle that she had. And I've also just done a lot of work to really honor, the young girl in me that just wanted a mom to hold me, to, really see me. And I'm also really fortunate that I felt very loved by my mom. Like there's no part of me that didn't have an experience of what it felt like to be loved, but it was also confusing because she had this other part of her that, was in pain. And when people are hurt, they hurt, hurt people. And so there was, it was more confusing as a child. But then the gift of meditation allowed me to, step back to a certain degree. And I wouldn't be the mom that I am today if I didn't have the ability to experience what love was and what love wasn't. And then the gift of meditation where I could make a choice to choose what felt like love and to let go of what didn't feel like love.
That took me some time to differentiate between the two. I knew the type of love I wanted. I knew the type of love that maybe I felt that I deserved, but the love that I was looking for began to change from my teens to my 20s and now to my 30s. And the type of love that I can give out for the most part was the same. It was kind of evolving, but it's very similar to what it could be. And sometimes I look back at childhoods where maybe the parents didn't necessarily provide as much as they could have for that child or the children. And I wonder sometimes to myself, is that the type of love that they can give? Was their type of love limited in a way because they didn't ever create, or as you mentioned, define it, right? And it made me kind of not hold too much against them because maybe that was the best that they could have given with what they've had. And it may not have been sufficient for me or maybe for you and for others, but for some people, it could have been sufficient enough because when I look back, when I look at you and I now, we're successful enough. It's not like we're homeless. It's not, there's a lot of things that we do have, and there may be things that we don't have, but overall, it appears we both live a good life. Is that one way to rationalize maybe what we've gone through from let's say someone who works with people through the meditation, through the understanding, and through the defining of what they're going through?
Mm-hmm. I think you know, depending on our past experiences of what love is or what love isn't. And, I work in the field of trauma and consciousness and kind of where they overlap. And I've worked, in with Gabor Mate, through his professional training. And I always use his quote when it comes to trauma. And trauma isn't what happens to you, it's what happens inside of you as a result of what happens to you, or sometimes that not happens to you. And I would say, yes, as parents, with the level of consciousness that they had, they did do the best that they can. And that doesn't mean that some of our needs were met as children, or that we even attached meaning to certain things innocently, even ourselves. And so, it created this restriction or this constriction, this shutdown, on the inside. And to me, those are our barriers or our armoring. And they all had a purpose. They actually were there to keep us safe, because maybe something in that moment didn't feel safe, or maybe our someone's emotions that were around us didn't feel safe, or ours weren't given safe passage and allowed to be expressed. So many different ways and things that we could talk about there, but ultimately there are barriers to loving and being loved. And when I talk about that, I mean, that ultimate loving and being loved without condition. Because a lot of us have experiences of love being conditional in our upbringing. And, I really truly believe that our deepest purpose in this world is to dismantle those barriers to love, because our deepest person, purpose is to love and be loved without condition. And sometimes I don't even like the word, using the word love, because there's so much condition around it. There's so much attachment to, well, love looks like this or doesn't look like this. And to me, that unconditional love is just like, I see you. I see you, and I'm I'm here to meet these messy edges or these sticky edges that might come up that does come up in all relationships of all sorts. And I'm here to meet those messy or sticky edges and let them be the pivotal point and opportunity to dismantle the barriers and the armoring, to joining, you know, to accepting, to allowing. It's a beautiful thing to allow someone to be as they are and not need them to be another way in order to love them. And if we can't, then it's a beautiful thing to let them go.
For those who are watching on Facebook, YouTube, and my website, please share, like, and subscribe for more incredible interviews like the one we have with Kelly today. And we will be back for more. So stay tuned, everyone. I wonder if the parents out there who are having difficulty